And that has led to the siloed implementations. You talk about you have a problem, you bring in a firewall. You have a problem, you add an antivirus. You have a problem, you put in a web gateway, a threat defense mechanism. You continue to do this, build technology on top of technology, bring in players. But at the end of the day, the solution that we're talking about is also very isolated. It is very siloed. And it becomes like a boxing ring. So on the one corner, you have all the encryptions and the firewalls and the antiviruses. And on the other corner is the poor Dave, who's just sitting there, human being, trying to make sense out of the things, getting bashed in and day out. And all he can do, if that is the condition, all he can do is then, go ahead and say, give us this day our daily patches, yeah, and lead us not into the fight between the red and the blues. So the Lord's Prayer becomes more in terms of his own existence for trying to make things work. But with the traditional approach, what we also see is that normally to counter these attacks, a traditional approach of counter-measurement is also taken. A friend that, like, most of the time the organizations, we use penetration testing, vulnerability assessment. But what is really missing, and I feel what is really missing, I'll come to that point, but it's more like an individual effort. And that individual effort has to change our line of thinking. It just cannot be, a VAPT or a vulnerability assessment penetration testing approach. It just cannot be taking a knee-jerk reaction to an incident that has happened. Collectively, it has to be, we have to work there as a team. It is not about individuals. Organizations is not just about individuals protecting an environment or a piece of server or a piece of firewall. It requires different skill sets. And that is how we need to change and rethink strategies in terms of the end goals from a cybercrime perspective. We have to have the ability to isolate issues, and that becomes trying to make sense of the zillion packets that are being bombarded in our networks. And there is good traffic, there is bad traffic. There's a huge lot of good traffic, but one bad traffic can really disrupt these services, and that is what the people who are protecting have to consciously make that effort to analyze, to think in terms of identifying the good versus the bad. With absolutely no disrespect to the courses that I have here, all of them have got very good courses. They give you the platform. They make you feel that yes, you know what you have to do in terms of getting this thing of the on cyber security, trying to prevent. It's a buzzword, but is it just only about protecting the cyber? Is it just securing the cyber work? Is that it? Penetration testing, vulnerability assessment, is that all that would be required in terms of trying to protect the infrastructure? If you look at it, the hardware, the operating system skills, the server skills, there's so many different skills involved in trying to run the network, to run the IT infrastructure. And the analogy that I'm going to draw is something that was said a little while ago in terms of the medicine, in the field of medicine, is that, okay, I'm a general practitioner. I might know something about medicine. I might have practiced. But in order to get specialized, and in order to, let's say, become a brain surgeon or a cardiac surgeon, I might attend a 3-day camp or a 5-day camp. For sure, I will be able to attend. I will be able to operate. So I do have a little bit of knowledge in terms of the medical practices. But as individuals, as you and me, as normal people, would I go back to that general practitioner and say, hey, you're willing to, you can work on my heart and get that happening? I don't think so, not me. I would not do that. But, and this is, it requires more than just about attending those 3 days and 5 days workshop. It requires a whole lot more. And we think that what is really important is to build it at the foundational level and move it as you move across. And the emphasis on training, and especially having the ability to have a hands-on environment where you can practice those skills, is of utmost importance. And some of the challenges that I face in terms of, as a technical person, is that I'm defending the production environment. When I'm protecting the production environment, I do not get a complete replica of that production environment. And if I don't get that, how can I go ahead and protect or defend what I'm supposed to protect? And that becomes a very, very big challenge. So one of the ways that we think that the industry needs to move forward is not only to build up integrate courses and all from the school right up to the colleges, have R&D centers, and build in, integrate cybersecurity into the into the ICT mainframe. But what we think that will really stand out would be the ability of people to work on a some kind of a range, like Mr. Talim Kumar was saying, like the cyber range, where you can emulate your entire production networks, you can emulate your industrial control systems. Your own organization forms up teams where the team consisting of your network guys or your system admins can formulate, can wear the red hat, can be part of the red team, and they can also double up and act as the defender on a simulated environment where they're taken through the perils of day-to-day attacks, defending the network. And that becomes a very integral part in terms of trying to protect those information security assets. And that is exactly, we feel, should be the way forward in terms of moving ahead. And that investment from the government side, participation along with the private players, is very, very important in this field. So while this is there, I just want to say that this is a typical network architecture, typical logical architecture, where people can actually go ahead and work, understand how the different disparate systems actually work, and fine-tune their skills in it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you've given. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudeep. Now we would like to have some interactive session. We have our own questions. I think from the floor also we are expecting some sessions. So my first session, my first query is to Mr. Donde. That is how you are looking for this kind of, because now in the digital India, a lot of works is being done, and you said some places I could see more than 100 billion jobs, more than 100 billion worth of work is there. So how this student can be developed in this? Only at this present system, the 8th semester or 4th year, some optional paper is there for the student. But do you feel that is until unless we make them, or we have some training, we have some specialized courses?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Larry. The question actually has multiple facets to it. Let me try and address as many as possible. Some I may not be, but at least as many as I can. So there are some courses which are getting conducted even now, which are outside the school or college curriculum. That's one thing, where computer training institutes, large ones, have specialized courses around cybersecurity in collaboration with firms, which are corporates as well, jointly. So it gives them batches after batches of good cybersecurity people, which is then absorbed by, the corporates in India. So that's one part of it, which is a simplistic solution, because the corporates are looking for skilled people any which ways. And here is a set of people who are, keen to learn. And by collaborating with the institute, you get that batch out. But if you really ask me whether it is happening at, so from institute level, again, it is happening because, IITs are also trying to do certain things. There are other institutes also which are trying to do, but these are, again, they have a focus there are batches of students which, when they do security and network security, network architecture and so on and so forth, there is a component of security that they try and address in that as well. So therefore, again, it's part of their routine curriculum, which then gets jointly addressed, with some level of support from the corporates and all.
You mean to say that syllabus got to be changed, or you mean to say some apart, these additional courses has to be there?
I think there are two points over here, Mr. Lahiri. One is basically for people who are interested in cybersecurity as a career. There are ample and more opportunities to do that. The question here is, how do we raise the overall cybersecurity maturity of a common man, more than anything else? Whether that can be done without him stepping into a specialized course is a different question altogether. So that's where again the challenge lies. I mean, because we also deal with a huge set of population, and now with, as Raghu was mentioning, there is so much that's IoT is a reality, ICS is a reality, payment banks are reality. So they'll be exposed to this scenarios. Now, how to protect it? Should it be in the device itself? Should there be any component beyond the device that people have to address it? And if yes, then how that training and awareness needs to be given? Is that need to be done through a specialized course, or does it have to be done by the corporate who is introducing the product? So there are many such things which are really required to be addressed.
Another second question from my side is, a couple of years back also we used to know that is the hackers, whether you call it ethical hackers or non-ethical hackers, they are from the age group of 15 to 20 or 15 to 25. So keeping in mind in that, how secure is our country? Couple of years back the defense site was hacked, and couple of years back also anti-terrorist squad, their site was hacked. That time I was in TCS, I was called for the repairing of the site. Okay. So my point is, I do not know from the team, I would write Mr. Kavle, if you just look into this, how secured is our country from the hacking point of view or from the cyber security point of view?
Well, it's not doomsday. Kaspersky likes to say everything is doomsday, but it is not. It is not. Everything is not bright. The reason why it is not doomsday is we have a set of manual processes. We have a lot of intervention. You look at it in the airport itself. We possibly are the only country where you have to show an ID to get into the airport. Sometimes the lady at the counter asks you for an ID, or if you go there, there's a fellow who puts a tag on your this thing. He stamps the tag. There are another two fellows who verify the tag. So to some extent, I know it's a waste of time, but then it's a good stuff. What I think we need to look at in a more broader fashion is segregate a system of record versus a system of transaction. A system of record is your banking record. Your system of record is your UIDA record. System of record is your transaction record. That needs to be put into a complete vault. And then you have other technologies by which you can have transactions around a secure system, which is called the system of transaction. And invariably, a lot of our systems are moving towards that. But yes, there has to be an awareness, especially with our government departments, especially with the way that many of our people function. There was a very interesting article in the Mint about a few days back. I think it was this week itself, on Wednesday or Thursday. They talked about how banks procure software. By the time a bank finishes its procuring software for a core business solution, which is what we do, the number of apps that an youngster would have developed is 10 times and he would have moved on. So I think we need to develop two mindsets. One is we need to say, okay, this is our system of record. We are going to be very, very fastidious about it. We are not going to compromise on it. And one which is rough and dirty, system of transaction where transactions can be done. And yeah, there might be some attacks there. You can't help that.
Thank you. Now questions from the floor. Yes. Sudipto. Yes. Right.
Let me
Let me.
Okay.
let me answer that to you. Yeah? As technical people, we know that there's nothing like 100% safe. You will have to accept that, right? Even when you're talking in terms of smart cities, everything is built on top of certain ICT base, right? Let's, without being disrespectful to anybody, cyber security as a principle is always an aftermath. It's never inculcated at the development process itself. And the more complex the solutions become, it becomes easier for a cyber crime to be perpetrated. You will agree with me on that front. Yeah? Having said that base, the point really comes down to what are the best practices that I can embed when I'm developing a solution, whether it be an application, whether it be an IoT device. If you look at, for example, Raghu mentioned about the car, the telematics that go inside the ECU of a car. Go and have a look at cargarages.org. As of 2 weeks ago, there was a book which was published and says that how to hack inside the ECU of a car, and it's available publicly. So challenges like this will continue to happen, but it is the prerogative of the solutions that are being made, of the processes, the policies, and most importantly, somebody who's governing on top has to be made liable in terms of what if things go wrong. And if that does not happen, they'll always, all we have to do is make it very, very difficult for people to even think about doing a crime. So if you ask me, and if you say today, when I walk down the corridors of the departments and the government and the state governments, it's very easy. I need not even know the wireless passwords. You know, it is very easy for me to just break into the system and say, and just log onto the Wi-Fi network and start sniffing a packet, for example. Why is that? It's the passwords, and you believe when I say this, the passwords are as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's not a joke. It's there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll be password. It'll be 2 letters of your AP points at the rate 1, 2, 3. How difficult? You need brute force attack? You don't need brute force attack. All you need is to know what are the combinations, and there you are. You walk in, and it's going to become even more difficult as we progress towards the complex natures of the wireless world in terms of IoT space. So security will always be a challenge, will always be a problem.
Yes.
And most of the hackers, they're not script kiddies anymore. They're not.
Yes.
Most of the people behind the scenes are all PhDs, all doctorates. And they're doing it because it's easy money for them. Bitcoins, name it, you have it. So eventually it is left on us to go ahead and just be careful about what we do, how we reach out, what are the things that we're trying to do. The example that I took for the Pakistani-based, which took the 7th Pay Commission, it was a spear phishing attack, which had Times of India AA.in. Now we all know that Times of India does not have that kind of URL. But if you're made aware, all these things can be brought down.
Thank you, Sudipto, because we cannot take any more, because next session has to start, because then the lunch will be there. So I think whatever is left out, you hold it. During the lunch time, we will discuss. So I think let us conclude for today, because a lot of queries has been generated from this, and that will be answered by this team. So please wait for some more time. Yes, Ongona.
Yeah, may we now request Mr. Lahiri to please present mementos to our speakers. To Mr. Nikhil Donde. To Mr. C.N. Raghupati. And to Mr. Shudipto Jena. May we now request Mr. Debe Mukherjee, Chairperson of the Emerging Areas Committee and the Environment and Energy Committee of the Bengal Chamber, to please present memento to Mr. R.N. Lahiri. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on to the next session, the discussion forum on cyber security across sectors. We have an eclectic mix of speakers here from representing different sectors. Mr. Ashwin Srivastava, co-founder and director, IDEN Ventures. He will speak on startup. Mr. Saurav Chandra, head of IT Mindra, of course we all understand, he will speak on e-commerce. And Mr. Bhashutosh Sinha Roy, general manager, Wipro Limited. It will be moderated by Mr. S. Radhakrishnan. Mr. Radhakrishnan is the past president of the Bengal Chamber and the president of TAI Kolkata.